びなどハンバハンバムやラダバムラダドンジュからカサクやモスラやモスラ
People, LP2000, I'm back at you with another video. Yes, welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews on behalf of Collect All Monsters. And I'm back again with another great X-Plus figure review. My God, it's been like a minute since we last seen each other. I think it's been like a month. I'm sorry, folks. I hope I missed y'all. I really have. I hope y'all missed me. It's been a while since I've done a figure review. I think the last one I did was the X-Plus Deforeal 1974 Godzilla, and like I said, I think it's been like over a month ago. So you know what? Let's keep the momentum going with the Deforeals and jump head first into this awesome Deforeal figure review. And today we're taking a look at the X-Plus Standard Edition of the Deforeal Mothra 2019, based off her appearance in the super cool Monsterverse legendary film, 2019's Godzilla King of the Monsters. And as you can see, I have the beautiful figure here. Yes, it is. You're going to hear that word a lot during the course of this video, quite frankly, because it is just that. It is beautiful. It is stunning. It is an awesome representation, even though it is a Deforeal form of Mothra from the epic film of Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. You know, do things around here. Let's get up close and personal with the box before we get into the beautiful, once again, I told you I was going to say that a lot, beautiful, stunning figure of the Deforeal Mothra. And as you can see here, this is the box, you know, basically part of the course when it comes to the Deforeals. For the window display, you have the Japanese language text of Mothra's name, 2019. The logo of the film, or how it is, you know, known in Japan, Godzilla 2, versus over here is known as Godzilla King of the Monsters. You know what I'm saying? Just nice, awesome art. Not art, but just a nice box, quite frankly. It's really akin to the other Deforeals, quite frankly. And you go on the back and you have her her name in American, or English, I should say, Mothra 2019. And that's pretty much it with the box. Once again, par for the course when it comes to the Deforeals, so we're not breaking new ground here. So yes, this, ladies and gentlemen, is the X-Plus Standard Edition of the Deforeal Mothra 2019. Such an awesome, beautiful piece. So let's go into backstory. And the backstory of this figure is this. We first got word that it was coming, I want to say last year, July 2019, at San Diego Comic-Con. X-Plus was there. They had a booth there showcasing some upcoming figures. And they had like a display card of a silhouette of the Deforeal Mothra. So that was first confirmation that this figure was coming. Fast forward a few months later, I want to say Super Festival 82 in Japan in September 2019. And we actually saw a prototype version. It wasn't painted, mind you, but a prototype version of the Deforeal Mothra, and it looked great. Fast forward a couple of months later, and at Tokyo Comic-Con in November, and they showcased what the standard and the Rick was going to be of this Mothra. They showed both figures painted, and quite frankly, I will have a comparison between those two later on. And it came in for pre-order, I want to say in December, a month later, and it was going to drop in May of this year, 2020, but because what's going on with COVID and it had that having a big impact on the delays of the release dates of these figures, it eventually got pushed back to August, and it dropped in collectors' hands in August. Now, let me be honest, ladies and gentlemen. At first, I wasn't feeling this figure. In fact, I actually passed on it, because when they started doing the promotion for Godzilla King of the Monsters last year, and they started showcasing what the monsters were going to look like in the film, I was on board with Godzilla, I was on board with King Ghidorah, and I was on board with Rodan, but Mothra was the only one that I was I was not too sold on, quite frankly. Even after watching the film, I still wasn't too keen on her. You see what I'm saying? Because she is such a radical departure from the classic Mothra that was kind of hard for me to get into. Now, when you look at Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah, yes, they're modern day reincarnations of those classic monsters, but you still see like the classic stuff within those monsters. Mothra was the one that really had an extreme departure, and it really rubbed me the wrong way, where I wasn't really a fan. So that's why when it came to the Deforeals of the monsters from this film that were released, or going to be released, I should say, I got my hands on Godzilla, I got my hands on Rodan, and I got my hands on King Ghidorah. And when Mothra came up for pre-order, I was like, I figure I'll pass on it. Because I'm at a point in my collecting journey where I'm getting real selective with what I want to have in my collection. So if a figure doesn't wow me at first or doesn't really get me to pre-order it on day one, I'm not going to get it. But after seeing pictures of it popping up on the groups on Facebook and reviews and stuff like that, I realized I made a mistake. I think a lot of us have done that, quite frankly. So when it came out, I was like, man, I was shooting myself in the foot because I really wanted one at that point. So enter great friend Vincent Perez. I want to say thank you and give you a shout out to him. He's actually the one that helped me get this figure. He actually purchased both the standard and the Rick, and when he got both of them, he decided to keep the Rick and sell the standard. And so when I saw that, I swooped in, got it, and that's why Mothra is here right now. And let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, this is an awesome figure, and I'm so glad I was able to get it. I'm so glad I was able to come around on it. I'm glad I was able to find it for a good price even after it got released. Because, you know, once a figure goes into the aftermarket, it's kind of hard to find it for a good price. So thank you to Vincent Perez for helping me out. I really do appreciate it. I have to say, quite frankly, this is like my second favorite Deforeal release so far this year. My favorite so far that I acquired for myself was the Big Mouth Orga. You know, the giant mouth Orga. But Mothra is a cool second behind him in a year where we're seeing great Deforeal releases like the Monsterverse King Ghidorah, like the Monsterverse Rodan, like King Caesar 74, like Godzilla 74. You see what I'm saying? They have been doing it real well. X-Plus I'm talking about with the Deforeal releases that they have produced this year. And for Mothra to come in second when at first I wasn't really feeling her at first, I think it's a great testament of how great this figure is. So that's pretty much it with the backstory of me getting this figure, and let's get up close and personal with this awesome Deforeal. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the standard edition of the Deforeal Mothra 2019. Now, before we go into the figure, let me go into what you have to do to set Mothra up. Now, as you can see here, she's in her flying position, quite frankly, which is awesome. But you have to assemble her on top of this base here. No different than what you do with the classic Mothras. You know, the 61, 64 GMK that X-Plus has done, where you insert a pole in like in the middle of Mothra's underbody, and you insert it on top of a base to simulate her flying. It's really the same thing here, except there's a small little twist to it. Now, it comes with the platform that has Mothra's name on it, Deforeal Mothra 2019, which looks great, and it comes with the pole. But it comes with a cradle, like a small cradle, because it's like a small little gap between the inner Mothra's body and like the midsection of her underbelly or whatever. There's like a small little gap there where you have to put Mothra on top of the cradle. Now, be careful when you do that, ladies and gentlemen, because if you don't put Mothra on the cradle correctly, she will come falling down, because, you know, her wings are so big, and because she does have a big head, she is prone to fall down. Unless you put her directly on top of the cradle, correctly on top of her cradle, you won't have any problems. Now, I haven't had any issues with it, quite frankly, but when I first got it, it took me a little bit to put her on top of on the cradle correctly. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't want to come home and think you've done something right with the figure and put it on top of the cradle, and then you come home and then she's like in a million pieces on the floor or whatever. So if you get this figure, please make sure that you have her on top of the cradle where it's right underneath her gap, where she can sit there comfortably, excuse me, I can't talk tonight, where she sits there correctly, I should say, where she won't have any issues or falling over or whatever. And as long as you don't move her around too much, quite frankly, I think they've done a great job with the stand here. I think that's something that X-Plus has been taking to heart, quite frankly, with the tail stands or just stands in general when it comes to these figures, which I know is like a bone of contention when it comes to some collectors. Some collectors just don't like the tail stands. Or in the Monsterverse King Ghidorah Deforeal case, you know, that figure comes with a neck stand, you know, to keep King Ghidorah propped up, because, you know, he's more leaning forward with his heads being out there, you know what I'm saying? So they had to have like a little neck stand on where you can put underneath the middle of the head to keep it from falling over. And even though it's necessary for that figure to be displayed properly, even that rubbed people the wrong way. So I think with this cradle of Mothra here, with the Deforeal Mothra, they simplified it or made it small enough where it doesn't distract from the figure, where once you tuck it in underneath Mothra's underbelly, it's not really too apparent, which I think is great. The only trade-off of that is, like I mentioned, you have to make sure that she's directly on it, that she's correctly on it. Otherwise, she may come crashing down. But I haven't had any issues with it, and I got this figure, I want to say, around a month ago or 2 months ago. So I haven't had any issues with it. So that's what I want to talk about when it comes to the display apparatus here, or the pole or whatever. I think it's great. Now, let's go with the sculpt of Mothra. And that's, once again, as I mentioned earlier, with the departure when it comes to the other monsters in the film. Like I mentioned, Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah, even though it's a modern, updated versions of themselves, you can still see like the classic or nostalgia factors when it comes to those monsters. But Mothra was the one that had such an extreme departure, where she doesn't come across like a moth per se, but she has more like a wasp type of structure when it comes to this figure. And honestly, when it comes to the colors, that's the thing. This is a beautiful figure. It is packed with colors. That's par for the course of Mothra anyway, right? She's like one of the most beautiful monsters and figures that you can get, with the multiple colors, with the blue in her eyes, you know, the orange and white and yellows in her wings or whatever. So when it comes to the colors here on this Deforeal Mothra, I don't recall seeing this in the film. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I've seen the film bunches of times, but I don't recall Mothra having this color scheme in the film. If she does, maybe pop down in the comment section and let me know when I can look for it. But I tend to think that they took some liberties with the color scheme. Now the Rick, which you'll see later on, that actually, I remember that part in the film where Mothra, becomes that shade of blue-green in the film, quite frankly. But with this one, I don't really recall. So I think they applied some of the Showa classic Mothra colors to this Deforeal to kind of give you a mixture of both classic and new. The classic Mothra colors on top of the new sculpt or the new design of Mothra, and I think it looks great. Like I said, just the blues in her eyes, whatever. Look really awesome. The brown shading on her claws here or whatever, her legs, and just brown highlights on basically her whole body here. The wings look awesome. Once again, par for the course with Mothra. The wings look so great. They look so captivating, quite frankly. Once again, this is one of the reasons why it's my second favorite Deforeal acquisition this year. It is such a beautiful monster, and it's such a beautiful sculpt with the Deforeal. And it makes me really, really anxious on when they will make the eventual 25cm Mothra. I'm going to be on top of that. But until then, this is a great, 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 great stunning representation of Mothra, even though it's a Deforeal form. Now, when it comes to the Deforeals, of course, the main selling point of these figures is the fact that their heads are an oversized feature when it comes to the sculpts of these figures, quite frankly. And Mothra in the film has somewhat of a small head, which is kind of different than what it was back in the day, because Mothra has somewhat of a big head, and big wings or whatever. But the new Mothra has somewhat of a small head. Her wings were still big, but her head was a little bit smaller. So they really pronounced their head here because, like I said, that's par for the course when it comes to the Deforeals. And it looks great. And also, I love how the fact that this Mothra looks very, very sinister, which is something that we have never seen, quite frankly, in a film, where we never see her like attack cities or kill human beings maliciously. Now we see a little bit of that in Godzilla King of Monsters, where she does attack the team that attacks her. Like, that's about the closest that we have ever seen Mothra becoming malicious. Now they kind of teased that in Tokyo SOS, right, where they said, if they don't return the bones or cure you to the sea, then Mothra may turn on mankind. They talk about it, but we never see that in the film. So it's nice to have a Mothra that does have a look of a sinister edge to her, and you got that here with the Deforeal Mothra 2019. Such an awesome figure. As a matter of fact, the Rick that you will see in size comparisons in a few seconds actually takes the sinister and more ferocious look of Mothra to a whole nother level. But yes, not much to go on here. It's a stunning, but once again, beautiful figure. Really is a beautiful figure, and it's one of those figures that really just make me real thankful that I was able to acquire this piece under any circumstances. Because once again, I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling the design of Mothra. Even to this day, I still don't really care for that version of Mothra, quite frankly. But I love the figure. I care for the figure. As a matter of fact, that's happened a couple times before. I don't really care of Mothra from Space Godzilla, but I love the figure. I got it. I don't really care for the suit design of the Burning Godzilla, but I love the gigantic. You know what I'm saying? So there are certain situations where I don't really like the on-screen kaiju, but I love the kaiju collectible representation of that same kaiju in vinyl figure form, and you can definitely add Mothra, the Deforeal Mothra 2019, onto the list. Once again, from the pose, the sculpt, the colors, oh my god, the colors look awesome. You know, just the way they set up the base here to keep her in flying mode or whatever. The base is awesome. Once again, from wing to tip, whatever, it is a nice representation of the Mothra 2019, courtesy of the Deforeal line. So I want to do a couple size comparisons, but before we go into the size comparisons in general, I'm going to provide some inserts where you can see the differences between the standard and Rick of the Deforeal Mothra 2019. Now what you see here is basically, once again, is the both standard and Rick of the Deforeal Mothra 2019. I have the standard, my beautiful wife Sandra, she has the Rick. And at first when I remember earlier I mentioned that we first saw the difference in the color of the paint scheme first at Tokyo Comic Con last year in November. And I thought at first glance that it was really the color scheme that was the main difference between the two figures. But upon further inspection, actually there are two more differences between the two. The Rick has a more open mouth, that I mentioned earlier, that it kind of has a more of a sinister vibe to it, a more ferocious vibe. Because to me, she looks more sinister and more ferocious with her mouth open like that. You know, that was a great difference between the two. And also, the Rick comes with a longer stinger at the end of her body. Now, the standard Mothra just has like a small stinger. But if you look at the Rick, it has a longer stinger, you know, the one that impaled Rodan later on in the film. So between the two figures, they both are amazing. You know, I can't pick one over the other one, even though I do got the standard. But I do have to admit, the Rick looks awesome. So if you go after either one, you will be in good company, because this is an awesome release, an awesome figure, whether you go standard or Rick. You can't go wrong with the Deforeal Mothra 2019, courtesy of X-Plus. Yes, yes, yes. So, I mentioned earlier just now that we're going to do a couple size comparisons, and you know what? Let's do a size comparison where I grab all the Mothras that I have in my collection and put them all together so you can see the evolution of the Queen of the Monsters, courtesy of Toho Studios. So let's go with that first size comparison with all the Mothras I have in my collection right now. Okay, folks, this is the first size comparison in general, and alongside the Queen of the Hour, the Girl of the Hour, the Deforeal 2019 Mothra Standard Edition, I have all the other Mothras I have in my collection. Yes, 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 courtesy of X-Plus. And let's go from left to right. Of course, down there in the far left-hand corner, that is the 25 centimeter or Favorite Sculptor's line version, I should say, of the GMK Mothra from GMK. Above her is the original Mothra, the grandmother of them all, instead of granddaddy. The 1961 Mothra, 25 centimeter. Of course, the girl, you know, the main girl in the hour. We already seen her, blah, blah, blah. Right there in the bottom, the small one right there, that's actually the Mothra 1966, but it's like a small mini Rick version that came with my 25 centimeter Godzilla 1966 X-Plus figure. And of course, with the fantastic egg from my most favorite film of all time, Mothra vs. Godzilla, I have the standard edition of the 25 centimeter 1964 Mothra. And as you can see, once again, as I said earlier, you are witnessing right now, ladies and gentlemen, the evolution of Mothra, courtesy of X-Plus. And as I mentioned earlier, with the different colors that Mothra has, she is just a beautiful monster, whether it's GMK, whether it's the original 64, even the Deforeal. You could definitely add a Deforeal onto the list when it comes to like beautiful representations of Mothra. Once again, even the 66, even though it's a small Rick version or whatever, there's not much really a big difference between that one and 64, quite frankly, but it's still like a nice addition to have, quite frankly, if you're able to track one down. Once again, this is great. Now, what I want to see next when it comes to Mothra, I wouldn't mind seeing 92. I know I rag on that film a lot, but I do enjoy that version of Mothra, even though she does look like a big Furby or a float that you see on a Thanksgiving Day parade on Thanksgiving Day. So I wouldn't mind seeing an adult Mothra. You know, I would like to see that. or especially the one from Tokyo SOS and Final Wars. I would love to have that Mothra. In my opinion, that's like the best looking Mothra out of all the films, quite frankly. So I won't mind seeing those come forth with the 25cm scale courtesy of X+. I think we are going to get it at some point. But between the two, do Tokyo SOS first. I would love to see Tokyo SOS first. Now, let me rank my Mothras on how I favor them from my most favorite to my least favorite. Of course, the 1964, that will always be my favorite Mothra for obvious reasons. For obvious reasons. Number 2, honestly, the Deforeal Mothra 2019. Yes, it is awesome. It is beautiful. It is stunning. Yes, she falls in number 2. Number 3 will probably be... just a tough one between GMK and 61. I'll probably go with the 61, then GMK, then the 66. But every single one of these Mothras are an awesome addition to the X-Plus roster and could definitely be an awesome addition to your collection if you choose to go after one. So that's it with the first size comparison with all the other Mothras I have in my collection. Once again, you get the beautiful evolution of the Queen of the Monsters, Mothra, in all her glory. So let's go with the final size comparison. You know what? Since we all talking about Godzilla, King of the Monsters, let's bring up the other 3 monsters that showed up in this film along with Mothra, with Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. So let's do that final size comparison right now. Okay, folks, this is the last size comparison, and yes, the most appropriate size comparison that I will bring up the entire, at least the main big 4 monsters of this epic film of 2019's Godzilla, King of the Monsters, accompanying the girl, the queen of the hour, the Deforeal Mothra 2019. That we have the Deforeal Standard Edition of Godzilla 2019, King Ghidorah 2019, and the Rick version of Rodan 2019. All of them courtesy of the awesome X-Plus Deforeal line. And as you can see, they look so well together. Yes, they do. Once again, it's nice to have these figures together. Once again, as I talked about earlier, when it comes to the sculpts or the designs of the figures, it's like when you look at this, you really see like the history between these 4 monsters. These 4 monsters basically were the foundation, aside from Mechagodzilla, from Toho Studios. And it's just amazing that these monsters and these characters have, you know, gained so much popularity over the past 60 some odd years, you know, whatever. And it's nice to see that they're still going. When they made the announcement after, you know, 2014 did well, that they were going to get Rodan and Mothra and King Ghidorah to be in an American Godzilla film, you know, it made a lot of folks excited. And once again, I think, you know, Tomoyuki Tanaka, Eiji Tsuburaya, and all the higher ups that made these classic monsters back in the day, I know they're up in heaven right now. But hopefully they got a smile on their face and just know that their characters are in good hands, because these are great reinterpretations of these awesome classic characters. No doubt about it. Once again, I know I've been very vocal in terms of my just cautionary attitude when it comes to Mothra, but this figure has made me come around on it, and seeing these figures together once again just reminds me of Ghidorah 3-Headed Monster, or Monster Zero, or Destroy All Monsters, or Final Wars. You know, just through the years they have endured it all, and that's why they're so popular, and that's why we love them so much, courtesy of these awesome characters right here. Yes. So that's pretty much it with all the size comparisons. Once again, when you have this Deforeal Mothra up against other classic Mothras from X-Plus roster in your collection, or if you want to make up the lineup here in Deforeal form, you can't go wrong with this figure. Trust me when I say that. So that's pretty much it with all the size comparisons. So let's go with my final commentary portion of the video right now. Okay, folks, I'm back with my final thoughts of the X-Plus Deforeal Standard Edition of Mothra 2019 from Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Once again, a beautiful, stunning piece and such an awesome release of this year 2020, and definitely most awesome and most welcome addition to the X-Plus Deforeal line. Once again, number 2, my favorite so far this year, and it is awesome in every way, shape, or form. Now, as I mentioned with the colors, you know, even though it might take I think X-Plus did take some artistic liberties with the colors, because once again, I don't recall seeing these colors on Mothra in the film. The Rick more so, yes, but not this one. But the fact that they applied, even if it is true that you know, that this wasn't in the film, the fact that they applied Showa classic Mothra colors to this new sculpt of Mothra, a new design of Mothra, I should say, makes me more of a fan of Mothra. You see what I'm saying? Because once again, I wasn't really feeling at first, but this figure has made me come around on it. So now let me talk about actually Mothra's role in the film. And that's the thing with Mothra. Now, don't get me wrong. Even though I enjoy Mothra, I love Mothra as a monster, I do have to admit that her appearances in these films are kind of like hit or miss with me. You see what I'm saying? I don't mean to offend the Mothra fans when I say that, but for me, Mothra is hit or miss in certain respects. There are certain cases where she is overutilized. There are some cases where she's underutilized, and there are some cases where she is done just right. You know, where overutilized, I mean, or at least overexposed, like in films like Mothra 92, or maybe Tokyo SOS, where she's more the focus than Godzilla in certain respects. Then there are times where she's not used to the fullest of her potential, like maybe GMK or whatever. So, or Final Wars, I should say. But there are certain moments or certain films where Mothra is used just right. They maintain the proper usage of her in a few of these films. Of course, Mothra versus Godzilla, you know, even though I am biased towards that film, but if you really think about it, Mothra doesn't really take up most of the film, even though she does get top billing. Godzilla is the star of that film, not Mothra, which is kind of weird since King Kong vs. Godzilla happened like a year earlier, and King Kong took top billing, but yeah, he was given a little bit more focus than Godzilla. But 2 years later, even though Mothra takes top billing, really Godzilla is the star of that film, not Mothra. But she only shows up when she absolutely has to. Kind of like Sea Monster, even though her appearance in Sea Monster is kind of like a cameo. But she only shows up when she's needed. She's not all over the place, like I said, in Mothra 92 or maybe Tokyo SOS. So you have films like Mothra vs. Godzilla, Sea Monster, where she has the proper usage. Or like said, oh, in GMK, you know, whatever. Because really, even though she looks great in GMK, she wasn't used the best of her potential. But Mothra vs. Godzilla, Sea Monster, and you can definitely add 2019 to the list of the proper usage of Mothra. Because when they announced the other monsters that they were bringing into the fold, you know, Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah, I was really excited about it. But I was also concerned that they were going to show Mothra too much exposure. But when you watch them film, she really doesn't take up a whole bunch of the story. She's in it, she pops in every now and then, but she's not the focal point. Really, it's the war between King Ghidorah and Godzilla is the focal point. But once again, like Mothra vs. Godzilla, like Sea Monster, Mothra shows up when she absolutely has to. Like I mentioned, you know, she is responsible for helping the humans find Godzilla after Oxygen Destroyer makes him go away or drives him away a little bit. You know, she does provide some offense against Rodan to give Godzilla the edge to beat King Ghidorah, because even though you may not want to hear this, Godzilla fans, Godzilla really couldn't defeat King Ghidorah on his own. You know, he had to have help. You know, or whatever. Now, imagine if Godzilla had to fight both King Ghidorah and Rodan. Now, yes, he did it in 2014 with the Mutos, but let's face it, the Mutos are not Rodan and they're not King Ghidorah. So if Godzilla had to fight both of them, there's probably not a good chance he would have survived that. But entering Mothra, who did provide him a little bit an edge while she took on Rodan, while he took care of King Ghidorah, to balance things out, so Godzilla could win in the end. You see what I'm saying? So I think the usage of Mothra was really, really, really good, and like I said, it was proper. It was like it wasn't a miss in my opinion. You see what I'm saying? But I have to say, the one thing I'm not a fan of when it comes to 2019, I don't like the what's the word? I don't like the suggestion that there's a thing between Mothra and Godzilla, even though it is kind of hinted at. You know, there's like something going on between them two, maybe on a romantic level. I'm sorry. That's just the purist in me. That's just the show guy in me. Like, nah. I'm fine with the reinterpretation of designs of the characters. I'm fine with what they did in taking the story into new directions when you have these characters that have been around for decades and you take them into new directions. I'm fine with that. But that's the one thing I didn't really particularly care of when I heard that, whatever. I was like, nah. Sorry, can't do it. I think deep down Godzilla hates Mothra, but he doesn't want to admit it. Once again, that's the Mothra vs. Godzilla talk coming out of me, quite frankly. But I do enjoy the film. I really do. I have fun with it every time I watch it, whatever. And once again, even though she doesn't take up a good chunk of it, she is a nice addition to the story. And once again, she is awesome for showing up when she absolutely had to, and she had a purpose, and she was a pivotal point in the film. No doubt about that. But aside from that, this is such a great figure of Mothra 2019, courtesy of the X-Plus Deforeal. If you can find one for a good price, please go after it. You will not be disappointed. Trust me when I say that. So that pretty much concludes my review of the X-Plus Deforeal Standard Edition of Mothra 2019, based off her appearance in the super cool legendary Monsterverse film, Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. If you have any questions, hop me down in the comment section. Hit me up on Facebook via Leslie Chambers. We'll definitely go from there. Yes, once again, great figure. Once again, I'm sorry for being late with the reviews, ladies and gentlemen. You would think by me being gone for a while that I have nothing to talk about or I have nothing to showcase. Trust me, I got plenty to talk about. You know, I got the Orga Deforeal that I talked about. I'm getting Iris, the 25 centimeter Rick version of Iris in a few days. I got a few books that I just got my hands on, you know, whatever. So I got plenty of reviews to get out to y'all. Once again, I'm just busy between, you know, my work life, collect on monsters, and try to balance everything in between. Has not been a struggle per se, but, you know, I have to put things into its proper perspective. But don't think for 1 second that I forgot about this channel. And I'm going to start cranking out more of these reviews and more videos for y'all to keep y'all entertained. But for those who have been riding with me since day one, I really do appreciate it. The kind words or whatever. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And once again, I've been saying it for the course of this video. Please get this figure. Once again, I wasn't too keen on this figure at first. But once I saw people getting it into their hands, and now I have it in my hands, courtesy of Vincent Perez, I can honestly tell you it's one of the best Deforeal releases thus far this year, and will definitely add some diversity and color and awesomeness to your collection if you choose to go after it. So whether it's this one or the Rick, you cannot go wrong with the X-Plus Deforeal Mothra 2019, courtesy of X-Plus. Yes, yes, yes. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all again on the next Figure Move review. All right? Y'all take it easy.
Mothra, dengan kasahku yang indomu, mustoilado hamba-hambamu yang tanda penguradan, tunjukkanlah kasahku yang Mothra, dengan kasahku yang indomu, mustoilado hamba-hambamu yang tanda penguradan, tunjukkanlah kasahku yang Mothra, Mothra, dengan kasahku yang indomu, mustoilado hamba-hambamu yang rada mengurada, tunjukkanlah kasahku yang Mothra, Mothra, dengan kasahku yang indomu, mustoilado hamba-hambamu yang rada mengurada,